Okay, let's unpack this deep dive request. You've handed us a stack of sources focused on the very public relationship and then the breakup of Sabrina Carpenter and Barry Keoghan.
Right.
And the reports you've gathered, well, they paint it like a bit of a modern fairy tale starting out, don't they? America's pop princess, Hollywood's kind of brooding star.
Yeah, it definitely had that vibe according to the sources, but it seems it ended pretty suddenly, and that's when all the internet rumors really started swirling.
Exactly. So, our job here, using your sources, is to sort of walk through the narrative they present, understand the key moments, the speculation, and importantly, the silence that followed.
Let's do it. Where did the sources say it all began?
Well, they described the start as pretty low-key, lasting over a year, apparently, but not exactly, shouting it from the rooftops.
The picture painted is more subtle, like a red carpet appearance here and there, maybe some paparazzi shots.
Glimpses that felt, because they weren't so stage-managed, maybe more real.
That's the sense you get from the sources, yeah. A quiet thing happening in a very loud world.
Okay, so things are ticking along, seemingly fine, and then the reports say fans started noticing something was off. How? What were the signs?
It was the digital stuff, mostly. The sources point to things like, like suddenly stopping between them, comments maybe disappearing.
The usual online tea leaves.
Exactly. And those public sightings, the few they had, they just stopped, vanished.
And what was the moment, according to these reports, that really felt like confirmation for everyone watching?
It seems to boil down to what the sources call a tiny digital gesture. The unfollow.
Ah, the classic.
Yeah. In today's celebrity world, the sources make it clear that simple click was basically the announcement. End of story. Publicly, at least.
That wasn't the end of the headlines, was it? Because right around then, another name starts popping up in the reports you shared, Breckie Hill.
That's right. Identified in the sources as a rising TikTok star,
Yeah.
and her name just sort of emerged into the conversation almost immediately after the split signs appeared.
Okay, so what was the connection? What were the rumors saying?
Well, the core speculation, based on your sources, was that Barry had maybe gotten a little too close to her.
While he and Sabrina were still dating.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
That was the implication floating around. But, and this is really important, the sources are very clear on this point.
What's that?
No evidence, no photos, just speculation. That's a direct quote highlighted. But, as they also note, in the celebrity sphere, sometimes speculation is all it takes.
It's often enough, as one source puts it. So you have this storm brewing online. What do the reports say about Sabrina's response?
Absolute silence. That's the key takeaway. Said nothing. Not a post, not a lyric, just silence.
And the sources suggest the silence was actually quite loud.
Yeah, they really emphasize that in the middle of all this noise, her saying nothing spoke volumes.
Interesting. Okay, so Sabrina's silent. Barry's. Well, we'll get to him. What were the fans doing, according to your sources?
They basically turned into online detectives. The reports talk about fans connecting dots, but based purely on, internet activity.
Like what kind of dots?
Well, the sources mention things like Barry being spotted at an after party that Breckie was also at. Timelines feeling, to these observers, too close, too convenient.
Right, putting pieces together whether they fit perfectly or not.
Exactly. And this apparently led to what the sources call an explosion of conspiracy theories, especially, it seems, on TikTok.
Any specific examples mentioned?
Yeah, things like flirty comment screenshots, analyzing shady captions, reading into cryptic videos, standard internet sleuthing stuff.
But again, the sources stress.
Nothing confirmed. That caveat is repeated. But the narrative online, it seems, had already taken shape.
So how did Barry handle this publicly, according to the reports? What was his reaction?
The sources describe him as just carrying on. Business as usual. Smiling at premieres, booking roles, keeping things professional in public.
But that didn't necessarily dampen the speculation.
No, interestingly, the reports suggest his calm demeanor actually kind of fueled it for some. The thinking being, well, how could he seem so unfazed, so quick to move on?
Unless they'd already started moving on before. That's the quote, right?
That's the question the sources say fans were asking, yeah.
Yeah.
It fed the suspicion.
Now, something the sources all seem to agree on and highlight is the lack of any official word from anyone.
That's a really striking point they make. No PR statement, no public denial. Across the board. Not from Sabrina, not from Barry.
And not from Breckie Hill either.
Right. The sources say she also didn't say much either, in terms of a direct statement. However,
However.
yeah, the sources point to her social media. specifically vague social media posts.
Mhm.
There's one mentioned with the caption, "He didn't deserve you."
Ooh, and that was interpreted how?
Well, the sources say that post, in particular, added fuel to the fire. It just sparked more debate.
Like, was it shade, a coincidence, or a silent confession, that kind of thing?
Exactly, those questions, yeah.
Yeah.
Just kept the whole thing churning.
And for Sabrina's fans, who, as the reports mention, have kind of followed her rise, this felt different.
Seemed to feel quite personal for many, according to the sources. Seeing this play out, this perceived heartbreak, amplified by online drama.
Okay, so amidst all the speculation and silence, the reports you shared seem to offer two main theories about why the breakup actually happened. What are they?
So theory one is basically logistics and pressure. You know, their careers are demanding, there's distance, the intensity of fame. Some sources suggest it was maybe always destined to fall apart.
Just a matter of time.
That's the idea. The pressures were just too great.
And the second theory.
That's the one that leans more into the drama, that something broke the trust, something sudden, something real.
And that theory ties directly back to the Breckie Hill rumors, doesn't it?
It does. If that something that broke the trust was infidelity involving Barry and Breckie, well, the sources state the sense of betrayal stings even more for those invested.
So we have theories, we have speculation, we have fan detectives. But the main takeaway from your sources, repeated over and over, is
Still, no confirmation, just silence. And the conclusion drawn is that in that quiet space, speculation thrives. It just fills the void.
meaning people are still looking for clues.
Oh yeah. The sources describe fans reading between the lines of basically everything. Every lyric Sabrina writes, every photo Barry posts, every TikTok Breckie uploads.
Everyone's just hoping to uncover the truth, as one report puts it.
That seems to be the state of play described.
So where do the sources say things stand now for Sabrina and Barry?
Sabrina, the reports say, is focused on her music.
Yeah.
And there's a strong fan belief, noted in the sources, that her next album will spill everything.
The classic breakup album theory.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
As for Barry, he continues acting, avoiding drama publicly. But the sources do note that online, this whole thing casts a shadow. The shadow of this breakup follows him everywhere, digitally speaking.
And the sources make an interesting distinction about this situation, don't they?
They do. They say a breakup is one thing, a scandal is something else, and this is both. The rumor, even unconfirmed, just kind of clings to him online.
So boiling it all down from your sources, the big questions left hanging are what?
Fundamentally, was it timing? Was it pressure? Or was it betrayal? Those seem to be the core uncertainties highlighted.
Okay, so let's summarize what these sources you provided lay out. We see a public relationship, seems pretty real, then a sudden stop.
Right, and that stop creates this vacuum, which gets filled, like, immediately, with fan theories, online speculation, especially focusing on this potential third person, Breckie Hill.
And the whole thing is massively amplified, the sources show, because nobody involved Sabrina, Barry, or Breckie actually says anything official.
Yeah, it's a fascinating look based on these reports at how powerful online communities can be in building these really detailed narratives, sometimes with very little or, well, no concrete proof.
And the sources leave us with this thought, no one knows, but everyone's watching. There's this sense that maybe the real story isn't out yet.
Exactly. Waiting for what the sources call a potential slip. You know, a lyric, a caption, a leaked DM, anything that might finally offer a clue.
So maybe the final thought for you as you look over this information is, how does this dynamic, this public waiting, this hunt for digital clues, how does it shape our whole understanding of celebrity relationships and maybe even what we consider truth in this online age? Something to chew on.